We're talking to Dr. Bobby Lovett, and of course the topic is the 21st Annual Afro-American Culture and History Conference that is to be held in town. But Dr. Lovett, let's, during the last segment of this show, give you an opportunity to talk about some of the information that I found in your book to be very intriguing, dealing with the construction of houses and plantation quarters in the southern parts of the United States. Let's talk about the building of some of these great mansions that we see, the Bell Meads and some of the other mansions. Let's talk about that, how that was done in the state of Tennessee here.
Well, you know, as I said before, many of the skilled artisans in the South were slaves or free Negroes. So they were carpenters. They were almost all of the brick masonries, the brick makers. They made the bricks and laid the bricks. They were the stone layers, and they were the stone cutters as well. So you had to depend a lot upon slave labor to build, you know, houses and so on, because it took a lot of labor in that day and time when not everything was automated as it is today. And of course, a lot of materials are shipped in from the north, from Europe, and so on. So every every plantation mansion around here, and there are about 4 that survive. You know, there's the Bell Mead Plantation, the Hermitage, Traveler's Rest, and a few others that survive, and they would have the touch of slave labor in those particular homes because they depended upon them very heavily. For example, McKissick and McKissick Architect Firm, which started here around about 1910 and was incorporated in Nashville in 1921, Moses McKissick was a slave architect, and he was a direct descendant of an African slave. But he took that skill that he knew as an architect, building houses in slavery time, over to after slavery, and then they turned it into a firm. And they built most of the buildings, half of the buildings probably at Tennessee State University before 1965. Built many of the buildings on Fisk University campus, and there are still a house or two out West End Avenue near the Bell Mead area that was built in the early 1900s by the McKissicks. And so they were very good at it, you know. The problem is that after slavery, many African Americans abandoned those skills and those trades. And younger generations say, I don't want to do old slave work, you know.
That became slave work.
That became slave work, but if they had maintained those particular jobs, they would have had a monopoly upon certain trades and skills in the South, as Booker T. Washington tried to tried to profess. He wanted African Americans to keep on dominating those trades and monopolize them, and therefore they would not have to depend upon anybody in the South. But most of the younger generation, 2 generations after slavery, said, I don't want to do no slave job. I don't want to be laying bricks. I don't want to, you know, be a stone cutter or a stone mason or a carpenter. And all of those now, of course, are highly paid jobs, you know.
You know, Dr. Lovett, let's have you to talk about the 2 books that you're working on. One dealing with Tennessee State University and another the history of African Americans in Tennessee. Just look at those 2 and think in terms of some of the information that you can leave with us that you think that is of some interest to the community.
Right. Well, one, I'm working on a book that President Hefner at Tennessee State University has asked me to do, which is the history of Tennessee State University from 1909 until the present. And it will not be the ordinary history of a university book, but it's actually going to be a story of Tennessee State University and the African American community and how they have interacted with the larger community in Tennessee and even in the nation, and how that institution has impacted the state of Tennessee, all African Americans, and even across the nation. So we'll put it into the larger historical context of everything that was going around at that time. And I'm about 60% through with that particular book. The other book, which I'm 95% finished with, and hopefully will be submitting it to a press by this summer, it is entitled Avon, A Biography of the Civil Rights Movement in the State of Tennessee from 1935 to the present. And that book is going to really be a big surprise to a lot of people because they think that the Civil Rights Movement started with the sit-in demonstrations in 1960. It started in 1935 in the state of Tennessee.
And so you will be able to demonstrate a whole new approach in terms of dealing with the civil rights movement.
Right, a whole new interpretation, and hopefully we'll be able to educate our state about how the civil rights movement has impacted our history since 1935. That Brown versus Board of Education was not the first time we started to talk about civil rights. For example, the Clinton High School case in Anderson County was submitted to the court in 1950. And the first integrated school started in Tennessee with Oak Ridge in the fall of 1956, before Clinton High School was even integrated. Some people think Clinton High School was the first integrated high school, but it was not. It was Oak Ridge, which integrated voluntarily in the fall of 1956.
Okay, Dr. Lovett, over the last 30 seconds that we have, give us some final information in reference to the date for this conference, and then we'll call it an end for the day.
Okay, well, the 21st Annual Local Conference on African American Culture and History will be held at the Downtown Public Library on Church Street. And it's on February 13th, which is a Wednesday. We begin around 8:30 in the morning, and we will conclude around about 2 o'clock that afternoon. Lunch is included, and all the publications are included in the cost, registration fee of $12.
And of course, you're making great preparations for that conference, and that will be part of the February offering during African American History Month.
Yes.
And of course, let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.